Hi boys and girls, it is Miss Tolly and I am back with a brand new book. This one I think you'll really like. I even had to read it for one of my college classes. It is called The Penderwicks. And you can see on my little post-it notes because I had to take notes in this book. So I really like it and I know it really well. This book has... It has 18 chapters and it has over 200 pages, almost 300 pages, so it's going to take us a while to get through this book. But this is the Penderwicks, and I'm going to start today by reading chapter 1. I might not get through all chapter 1, but I'm going to try. So stay tuned. I think you'll really like this book, and I'm going to go ahead and get started. So, The Penderwicks by Jean Birdsall. It's a summer tale of 4 sisters, 2 rabbits, and a very interesting boy. And it is a National Book Award winner. So chapter 1 is called A Boy at the Window. For a long time after that summer, the 4 Penderwick sisters still talked of Arundel. Fate drove us there, Jane would say. No, it was the greedy landlord who sold our vacation house on Cape Cod. Someone else would say, probably Skye. Who knew which was right? But it was true that the beach house they usually rented had been sold at the last minute. And the Penderwicks were suddenly without summer plans. Mr. Penderwick called everywhere, but Cape Cod was booked solid. And his daughters were starting to think they would be spending their whole vacation at home in Cameron, Massachusetts. Not that they didn't love Cameron, but what is summer without a trip to somewhere special? Then, out of the blue, Mr. Penderwick heard through a friend about a cottage in the Berkshire Mountains. It has plenty of bedrooms and a big fenced-in pen for a dog, perfect for big, black, clumsy, lovable hound, Penderwick, and it was available to be rented for 3 weeks in August. Mr. Penderwick snatched it up right unseen. He didn't know what he was getting into. Batty would say. Rosalind always said, it's too bad Mommy never saw Arundel. She would have loved the gardens. And Jane would say, there are much better gardens in heaven, and Mommy would never have to bump into Mrs. Tifton in heaven. Skye added to make her sisters laugh, and laugh they would, and the talk would move on to other things until the next time someone remembered Arundel. But all that is in for the future. When our story begins, Batty is still only 4 years old. Rosalind is 12, Skye 11, and Jane 10. They're in their car with Mr. Penderwick and Hound. The family is on the way to Arundel, and unfortunately, they're lost. It's Batty's fault, said Skye. It is not, said Batty. Of course it is, said Skye. We wouldn't be lost if Hound hadn't eaten the map, and Hound wouldn't have eaten the map if you hadn't hidden your sandwich in it. Maybe it's fate that Hound ate the map. Maybe we'll discover something wonderful while we're lost, said Jane. We'll discover that when I'm in the back seat for too long with my younger sisters. I go insane and murder them, said Skye. Steady, troop, said Mr. Penderwick. Rosalind, how about a game? Let's do I went to the zoo and I saw, said Rosalind. I went to the zoo and I saw an anteater. Jane? I went to the zoo and I saw an anteater and a buffalo, said Jane. Batty was between Jane and Skye, so it was her turn next. I went to the zoo and I saw an anteater, a buffalo, and a kangaroo. Kangaroo starts with a K, not a C, said Skye. It does not. It starts with a C. Like cat, said Batty. Just take your turn, Skye, said Rosalind. There's no point in playing if we don't do it right. Rosalind, who was sitting in the front seat with Mr. Penderwick, turned around and gave Skye her oldest sister glare. It wouldn't do much, Rosalind knew. After all, Skye was only 1 year younger than she was, but it might quiet her long enough for Rosalind to concentrate on where they were going. They really were badly lost. This trip would have taken an hour and a half, and already they'd been on the road for 3. Rosalind looked over at her father in the driver's seat. His glasses were slipping down his nose, and he was humming his favorite Beethoven symphony, the one about spring. Rosalind knew this meant he was thinking about plants. He was a professor of botany, instead of about his driving. Daddy, she said, what do you remember about the map? Well, we're supposed to go past a little town called Framley, then make a few turns and look for number 11 Stafford Street. Didn't we see family a while ago? And look, she said, pointing out the window, we've been past those cows before. Good eyes, Rosie, he said, but weren't we going in the other direction last time? Maybe this way will do the trick. No, because all we saw along here were more cow fields, remember? Oh, yes. Mr. Penderwicks stopped the car, turned it around, and went back the other way. We need to find someone who can give us directions, said Rosalind. We need to find a helicopter that can airlift us out of here, said Skye. And keep your stupid wings to yourself. She was talking to Batty, who, as always, was wearing her beloved orange and black butterfly wings. They're not stupid, said Batty. Woof, said Hound from his place among the boxes and suitcases in the very back of the car. He took Batty's side in every discussion. Lost and weary, the brave explorers and their faithful beast argued among themselves. Only Sabrina Starr remained calm, said Jane. Sabrina Starr was the heroine of books that Jane wrote. She rescued things. In the first book, it was a cricket. Then came Sabrina Starr rescues a baby sparrow. Sabrina Starr rescues a turtle. And most recently, Sabrina Starr rescues a groundhog. Rosalind knew that Jane was looking for ideas on what Sabrina should rescue next. Skye had suggested a man-eating crocodile who would devour the heroine and put an end to the series, but the rest of the family had shot her down. They enjoyed Jane's books. There was a loud oomph in the back seat. Rosalind glanced around to make sure violence hadn't broken out, but it was only Batty struggling with her car seat. She was trying to twist herself backwards to see Hound. Jane was jotting in her favorite blue notebook. So they were both all right, but Skye was blowing out her cheeks and imitating a fish, which meant she was even more bored than Rosalind had feared. They better find this cottage soon. Then Rosalind spotted the truck pulled over by the side of the road. Stop, Daddy, maybe we can get directions. Mr. Penderwick pulled over and Rosalind got out of the car. She now saw that the truck had tomatoes painted in large letters on each of its doors. Next to the truck was a wooden table piled high with fat red tomatoes, and behind the table an old man wearing torn blue jeans and a green shirt with Harry's Tomatoes embroidered across the pocket. Tomatoes? He asked. Ask if they're magic tomatoes. Rosalind heard out of the corner of her eye. She saw Skye hauling Jane back in through the car window. My younger sister, said Rosalind apologetically to the old man. Had 6 of them myself. Rosalind tried to imagine having 6 younger sisters, but she kept coming up with each of her sisters turned into twins. She shuddered and said, Your tomatoes looked delicious. But what I really need is directions. We're looking for number 11 Stafford Street. Arundel? I don't know about any Arundel. We're supposed to be renting a cottage at that address. That's Arundel, Mrs. Tipton's place. Beautiful woman, snooty as all get out, too. Oh, dear. You'll be fine. There are a couple of nice surprises over there. You're going to have to keep that blonde one under control, though, he said, nodding toward the car where Skye and Jane were now leaning out the window together, listening. Muffled complaints could be heard from Batty, who was being squashed. Why, me? Called Skye. The man winked at Rosalind. I can always spot the troublemakers. I was one myself. Now, tell your dad to go down this road a little ways. Take the first left, then a quick right, and look for number 11. Thank you, said Rosalind, and turned to go. Hold on a minute. He plopped a half-dozen tomatoes into a paper bag. Take these. Oh, I can't, said Rosalind. Sure you can. Tell your dad they're a present from Harry. He handed Rosalind the bag. And one last thing, young lady. You and your sisters better stay clear of Mrs. Tipton's gardens. She's touchy about those gardens. Enjoy the tomatoes. Rosalind got back into the car with her bag of tomatoes. Did you hear him? Straight, then left, then right. Then look for number 11, said Mr. Penderwick, starting up the car. What's this Arundel he was talking about, said Skye. And who's Mrs. Tipton? Said Jane. Hal needs to go to the bathroom, said Batty. Soon, honey, said Rosalind. Daddy, here, go left. All right. I am halfway through chapter 1, so I'm going to go ahead and stop here. And tomorrow I will finish reading the rest of chapter 1. All right, I hope you like it so far, and I can't wait to get more into this. Bye, guys.